CEO Elon Musk isn't just planning on sending humans to the moon, but that's the first step to take towards pushing humans to interplanetary life. In this episode, let's go over how this plan will be achieved. NASA is now getting ready to send astronauts to explore more of the moon as part of the Artemis program. Humans will be returning to the moon for the first time in 60 years in 2024, after the last manned Apollo mission. The Artemis program has two objectives: a manned mission to the moon and a permanent human presence on the lunar surface. The program is named after the Greek goddess of the moon. Artemis was the twin sister to Apollo. It's a way for NASA to show appreciation for the Apollo missions that landed the first man on the moon. NASA shocked much of the space industry when it selected SpaceX to continue the development of the first commercial human lander that will safely carry the next 2 American astronauts to the lunar surface. The space agency was expected to select 2 of 3 companies that submitted final bids to then create competing lander designs. In selecting just SpaceX over competitors Blue Origin and Dynetics, NASA said it simply hadn't been awarded sufficient funding by Congress to make more than one selection. The firm fixed price milestone-based contract total award value is $2.89 billion. With this award, NASA and our partners will complete the first crewed demonstration mission to the surface of the moon in the 21st century as the agency takes a step forward for women's equality and long-term deep space exploration, said Kathy Luters, NASA's Associate Administrator for Human Explorations and Operations Mission Directorate. This critical step puts humanity on a path to sustainable lunar exploration and keeps our eyes on missions farther into the solar system, including Mars. CEO Elon Musk believes that humans will not only be able to make it to the moon before 2024, but can also establish a relatively permanent presence on the surface. Musk's original announcement of his intentions to place a permanently occupied human base on the moon came all the way back in March of 2019. As he explained it, "We should have a base on the moon, like a permanently occupied human base on the moon, and then send people to Mars." While it's definitely quite a spectacular goal, with the technology and money at Musk's feet, it's definitely not impossible. In fact, just a few months ago, Musk had mentioned that he was determined to get to the moon as fast as possible, something that was taken to heart by both him and the National Space Program for the United States. Experts have claimed that this whole ordeal is likely too ambitious, although Musk is determined to prove them wrong. In fact, SpaceX's Starship Deep Space Transportation System was selected as Artemis's crewed moon lander. Musk doesn't plan on exclusively using Starship for landing, however, as the ship's incredible construction allows the rocket to be used repeatedly, allowing landing and extraction with just one rocket. It's still in progress though, something that he jokingly referred to in a recent news conference. Obviously, we need to, not be making craters. Got some work to do, but we're making rapid progress. The craters mentioned is from SpaceX's recent test flight campaign, which has resulted in more than a few recent explosions. Luckily for the future of Artemis and Musk's plan, the company has been hard at work, recreating and solving issues they've had with the technology. The Starship HLS is a modified configuration of SpaceX's Starship spacecraft, optimized to operate on and around the moon. As a result, the heat shield and air brakes, integral parts of the main Starship design, are not included in Starship HLS. The variant will use high-thrust Methalox RCS thrusters located mid-body on Starship HLS during the final tens of meters of the terminal lunar descent, as well as the landing, and will be powered by a solar array located on its nose below the docking port. Elon Musk stated that Starship HLS would be able to deliver potentially up to 200 tons to the lunar surface. The agency's powerful Space Launch System rocket will launch 4 astronauts aboard the Orion spacecraft for their multi-day journey to lunar orbit. At least one of these astronauts will make history as the first woman on the moon. There, 2 crew members will transfer to the SpaceX human landing system for the final leg of their journey to the surface of the moon. After approximately a week exploring the surface, they will board the lander for their short trip back to orbit, where they will return to Orion and their colleagues before heading back to Earth. Starship HLS would be launched to Earth orbit using the SpaceX Super Heavy booster and would use a series of tanker spacecraft to refuel the Starship HLS vehicle for lunar transit and lunar landing operations. In the mission concept, a NASA Orion spacecraft would carry a NASA crew to the lander where they would depart and descend to the surface of the moon. SpaceX has been working closely with NASA experts during the HLS base period of performance to inform its lander design and ensure it meets NASA's performance requirements and human spaceflight standards. A key tenet for safe systems, these agreed upon standards range from areas of engineering, safety, health, and medical technical areas. With NASA's Space Launch System rocket, Orion spacecraft, HLS, and the Gateway Lunar Outpost, NASA and its commercial and international partners are returning to the moon for scientific discovery, economic benefits, and inspiration for a new generation. Working with its partners throughout the Artemis program, the agency will fine-tune precision landing technologies and develop new mobility capabilities to enable exploration of new regions of the moon. On the surface, the agency has proposed building a new habitat and rovers, testing new power systems, and more. These and other innovations and advancements made under the Artemis program will ensure that NASA and its partners are ready for human exploration's next big step, the exploration of Mars. The Artemis base camp is planned to be developed near the south pole of the moon in a region called the Shackleton Crater. Shackleton Crater has a very unique location as the peaks along the crater's rim are exposed to almost continual sunlight, while the interior is perpetually in shadow. NASA has also detected pockets of frozen water in that region. This is a significant finding since access to abundant water means that the base camp won't have to depend on an external supply of water. It also means the Artemis base camp can generate its oxygen by breaking up the H2O molecules. Shackleton Crater fits NASA's criteria for the ideal base camp position. Among the many things NASA takes into account in choosing a specific location, these are the most important 2 key features. The site must bask in near continuous sunlight to power the base and moderate extreme temperature swings, and it must offer easy access to areas of complete darkness that holds icy water. Having access to ice will help the Artemis base camp to achieve its goal of self-sustainability. Artemis base camp itself will be a lunar surface habitat that is planned to host 4 astronauts. Life support is at the top of the priority list for the base camp. A lunar terrain vehicle, or LTV, would transport crew around the landing zone. The habitable mobility platform would enable crews to take trips across the moon lasting up to 45 days. Astronauts working on the lunar surface also could test advanced robotics as well as a wide set of new technologies identified in the Lunar Surface Innovation Initiative, focusing on tech development in the areas such as in situ resource utilization and power systems. Rovers will carry a variety of instruments including ISRU experiments that will generate information on the availability and extraction of usable resources, including oxygen and water. Advancing these technologies could enable the production of fuel, water, and/or oxygen from local materials, enabling sustainable surface operations, with decreasing supply needs from Earth. Another key difference between Apollo and Artemis will be the use of the Gateway in lunar orbit, built with commercial and international partners. The lunar outpost will serve as a command and control module for surface expeditions and an office and home for astronauts away from Earth. Operating autonomously when the crew is not present, it will also be a platform for new science and technology demonstrations around the moon. Over time, NASA and its partners will enhance the Lunar Gateway's habitation capabilities and related life support systems. Adding a large volume deep space habitation element would allow astronauts to test capabilities around the moon for long duration deep space missions. The moon is a natural laboratory to study planetary processes and evolution, and a platform from which to observe the universe. NASA will send dozens of new science instruments and technology demonstrations to the moon with its Commercial Lunar Payload Services initiative. Some of these robotic precursors, including the Volatiles Investigating Polar Exploration Rover, or VIPER, will study the terrain and metal and ice resources at the lunar South Pole. The accomplishments of the Moon to Mars approach will assure that America remains at the forefront of exploration and discovery. The US is still the only nation to have successfully landed humans on the Moon and spacecraft on the surface of Mars. As other nations steadily increase their presence and spending, American leadership is now called for to lead the next phase of humanity's quest to create a future consisting of endless discovery and growth in the final frontier.